All right, today we're going to get our feet wet, so to speak, and dive into the science of what it takes to save a flooded home. And to do that, we're focusing on a place where water is a constant, powerful enemy, Marrero, Louisiana. Let's get into it. For so many people, this isn't just some what-if scenario. It's the reality they live with every single day. When your house is literally surrounded by water, built on shaky river soil, and constantly getting hammered by a humid, stormy climate, that fight to stay dry is just relentless. So what do you do when the water finally wins around and gets inside? Well, to really get a handle on the solution, we first have to understand the battlefield. And in a place like Marrero, Louisiana, owning a home isn't exactly a peaceful retreat. It's more like a constant, ongoing war with water. And what's really wild here is how all these threats just pile on top of each other. It's not just one thing, it's this perfect storm of problems. You've got high water tables, which means the ground is basically always a sponge. The soil itself is soft and shifts around, which can crack your foundation. Throw in some aging plumbing from the 60s, crazy summer storms, hurricanes, and that thick, soupy humidity year-round, and you've got a recipe for absolute disaster. Okay, so you've got all this pressure from the outside, right? But how does the water actually get in? It's almost never some big, dramatic Hollywood flood scene. More often than not, it's the home's own systems failing, getting pushed way past their breaking point by the environment. Think about something like a rare freeze. In a place like Morrow, nobody really insulates the pipes in their attics or walls because, well, 99% of the time, they just don't need to. But when that 1% event hits and the temperature plummets, bam! Those exposed pipes are the first thing to go, and you can get catastrophic damage literally overnight. Or how about this? Your trusty air conditioner? In Louisiana's climate, that thing is running pretty much all year long, and it's pulling gallons of water out of the air every single day. All it takes is one tiny little clog from some algae in the drain line, and all that water starts backing up, silently soaking your attic insulation and your ceiling for weeks before you even see a single stain. And the threat isn't just from the sky or the pipes. It's coming from right under your feet. The very ground the house is built on is unstable. That soft Mississippi River soil settles over time, and that can put tiny, or not so tiny, cracks in the concrete foundation. And those cracks become perfect little doorways for groundwater to seep in the next time there's a heavy rain. And finally, you've got the danger you can't even see, hiding right there inside the walls. A lot of these homes went up in the 60s and 70s, which means their plumbing is basically at the end of its life. Old pipes corrode, plastic lines get brittle, and a 50-gallon water heater can just give up without any warning, dumping its entire contents into your house in a matter of minutes. So, the water's in, now what? This is where the clock starts ticking, and I mean ticking fast. It's not the initial splash that causes the worst long-term damage. It's everything that happens in the first 48 hours. We call it the damage cascade, and every single hour is critical. And this quote from the restoration pros who deal with this stuff every day, it just hits the nail on the head. The goal isn't just getting the water out. It's about stopping that chain reaction of destruction that kicks off the second things get wet. It's a race against both biology and physics. And you can see just how fast this all happens. Within the very first hour, materials like drywall start acting like a straw, just sucking water up the walls. Wood floors start to swell. By 12 hours, your furniture is bloating, and colors from rugs and fabrics can bleed out, causing permanent stains. But the real deadline? That's 24 hours. That's when all those dormant mold spores that are everywhere, they wake up. And by 48 hours, you're in the real danger zone. The actual structure of your home is being compromised, and toxic mold becomes a serious health risk. So, faced with that terrifying countdown, you can't just throw some towels on the floor and open a window. That's not going to cut it. The professionals have a systematic playbook, and it's designed to stop that damage cascade in its tracks. It is a very methodical process that turns total chaos into a controlled, scientific operation. The whole response really follows a four-step protocol. First up, assess and document. They use things like thermal cameras to find every last drop of hidden water. Next, extraction. And this isn't your garage shop vac. We're talking truck-mounted industrial pumps that can move thousands of gallons. The third step, and maybe the most critical, is structural drying, actually pulling the moisture out of the very bones of the house. And only then, once everything is verifiably dry, do you move to step 4, reconstruct. Now that third step, structural drying, that's where things get really interesting. That's where the real science comes into play. You see, getting a house properly dry in a place as humid as Louisiana isn't just about blowing some fans around. It's about literally manipulating the physics of the environment inside the home. This whole process is actually governed by a huge set of rules called the IICR 700 standard. You can think of it as the official Bible for the restoration industry. It's not based on guesswork, it's a scientific framework that makes sure the job is done right, effectively, and safely. And part of that science is knowing that, believe it or not all water is the same. If a clean water pipe breaks, that's category 1, simple enough. But if your washing machine overflows, that's category 2, or gray water, because it's got detergents and dirt in it. And then there's category 3, black water. That's the really nasty stuff, from sewage or storm flooding, and it's dangerously contaminated. Each category requires totally different safety gear and cleanup procedures. So why is all this science absolutely non-negotiable here? It all comes down to this one number, over 75%. That's the average humidity. The air is already so full of water that natural evaporation just doesn't happen. Trying to air out a house is physically impossible. In fact, all you're doing is inviting more humid air inside, which is like pouring gasoline on a fire for mold. I mean, let's just put it side by side. The difference is night and day. A professional uses psychrometrics, the actual science of air and water vapor, with industrial-grade equipment. The goal is to get the house verifiably dry and prevent more damage. The DIY approach? That's guesswork with box fans. The goal is just to make it look dry, but all that hidden moisture is still there, just waiting to turn into a huge mold problem down the road. Okay, so let's boil all this down. What are the big things you absolutely have to take away from this? First, speed is everything. That 48-hour clock is very, very real. Second, science always beats guesswork. You have to control the environment to really get things dry. Third, you've got to know what you're dealing with. The source of the water changes the entire game. And finally, data is your friend. That detailed documentation is what separates a smooth insurance claim from an absolute nightmare. And that leaves us with one last really important thought. So the water is gone, the walls are rebuilt, your house is back to normal. But in a place like Marrero, the battle is never really over. It's just a pause. The real challenge is taking the hard lessons you learned from one disaster to make your home stronger and more resilient for the one that's inevitably coming next.